championship points to win Wimbledon.
There's a new king of centre court.
And magnificent stuff. Precious, life-defining moments.
Alfie Hewitt and Gordon Reid have done it.
The waiting is over. Andy Murray is the Wimbledon champion. Vondrousova is the unseeded champion.
Who will follow in their footsteps?
It's a dream debut.
Okay, try again. So good morning everybody and welcome to our pre-championships media conference, and I thank you for joining us today. My name is Debbie Javins, Chair of the All England Club, and alongside me is Sally Bolton, our Chief Executive. And today we'll cover two broad themes: an overview of our plans for the 137th Championships and an update on future developments, including around the estate. And to start with, as this is my first media conference as chair, I thought it may be appropriate to give you a sense of my own view and our collective priorities, both as a club and a championships. So firstly, I don't think it'll surprise you to learn that keeping Wimbledon at the pinnacle of the sport is our primary ambition. I am focused on ensuring that Wimbledon continues to be recognised as one of the world's best sporting events, while seeking to retain our unique blend of tradition and innovation. A thriving championships creates the opportunity to give back, whether giving back is playing a leading role in making the sport the best it can be for the players and the fans, or making a positive contribution to the communities that we are a part of, or protecting and enhancing Wimbledon for the long term through strategic investment. And we, together with the other Grand Slams, are in a privileged position as pillars of the sport. And it would be simple to concentrate solely on the success of our own events and giving back to national governing bodies that we support. But I think it's right that we take an interest in the overall governance and health of the sport internationally. And you'll all be aware that conversations with the governing bodies, players and tournaments have been ongoing for many months as we seek to find a common vision for the future of the sport, a sport with the interests of the players in mind. Discussions are complex and there isn't a simple fix. If there was, others would have been successful in succeeding in introducing a change long ago. But the work continues, and as you might expect, we are taking an active role. I also keenly feel that with our growth comes responsibility to be an engaged neighbour and a force for good in our communities locally, nationally and internationally. I will have more to say on that topic later. The continued success of the championships and the increasing social and economic benefit that the event generates allows us to give back and drive investment into our sport, our communities and our future. And these priorities will be top of my mind during my tenure as chair. Now, with that in mind, we're going to turn to prize money. And in addition to investing heavily in the facilities and services that we offer the players and their teams, we are pleased to be offering a record prize money for this year's championships. Now, when setting levels this year, we look to strike the balance between providing a good measure of security for the left-hand side of the draw, who do rely on Grand Slam prize money to fund their coaching, travel and expenses throughout the year, while rewarding the right-hand side of the draw as they progress further. The total prize money fund for this year's championships will be £50 million. A very healthy increase of 11.9% or £5.3 million on 2023. The gentlemen's and ladies singles champions this year will each receive £2.7 million, an increase of £350,000 or 14.9% on last year. Singles first round prize money is £60,000 and the total on offer for the qualifying competition has increased by 14.9% to £4.8 million. And importantly, reflecting on the growing popularity and success of wheelchair tennis at Wimbledon, our singles and doubles draws will expand to 16 players and 8 teams, and the competition will begin a day earlier on the second Tuesday. Prize money for the wheelchair and quad wheelchair events will now stand at £1 million. I'll now hand over to Sally to take you through the detail for this year's championships.
Thank you, Debbie, and good morning to you all. I'm pleased to provide an update on our plans for this year's championships. First, I would like to recognise the incredible demand that we've had from people around the UK and the world to enjoy a day at Wimbledon. We've had a record number of applications for the Wimbledon public ballot, a tradition that is now 100 years old, and we believe still the fairest way of ensuring the widest distribution of tickets. And our corporate hospitality packages with Keith Prowse were sold out by the earliest date on record. It's very encouraging to see that people's passion for attending Wimbledon remains as strong as ever, and we don't take that for granted in what is a packed summer of international sporting events. That's why every year we're looking for ways to improve the experience for all of our guests. I'll begin with a brief update on the qualifying competition. As you know, we currently have proposals before the Mayor of London's office regarding the transformation of the former Wimbledon Park golf course, and our wish, and indeed the players, to bring qualifying here on site in the future. In the meantime, we have a lease agreement in place covering the site at Roehampton, which we operate year-round as a community sports centre, and we are committed to continuing to improve facilities on offer at that site. Last year, we introduced a new show court in a more central location on the site, with a seating capacity of just under 800, in addition to new and relocated practice courts. These changes were very well received, and we are now able to increase the daily spectator capacity at qualifying to 3,500, up 500 guests a day on last year. There are now only a handful of tickets remaining for qualifying, with 96% of tickets sold across the 4 days already. Those joining us at qualifying this year will have a better experience, with broader food and drink offering and an increased shade and shelter provision, while enhancements to our accessibility measures mean that guests with additional needs will find it easier to enjoy their day. The queue remains a much-loved and key point of difference for Wimbledon amongst other major international sporting events. We've spent considerable time during the last year looking at how we can enhance the experience of the tens of thousands of guests who join us via the queue for the fortnight, whilst protecting their opportunity to buy premium tickets for Wimbledon on the day, a tradition that is unique for a sold-out premium event. This year we will be splitting the queue into 3 phases of operation: a welcome area which will house the main queue lines, a ticket purchase phase where payments will be taken, and an activation phase where many of our official partners will have a presence. We'll be encouraging queue-goers who've purchased their show court tickets, or those who are waiting to enter the grounds a little later in the day, to make the most of this activation zone, which will alleviate the need to spend quite so long lined up waiting to enter the grounds. And for spectators in the grounds, we have upgraded the offering on the Hill lawn, with ticket resale shifting location slightly to allow for new activations by our partners American Express and Stella Artois, which will provide guests with another vantage point to watch the tennis on the big screen. Earlier this week, we launched our Championships trailer, which you saw at the start of the conference today, and it builds on our Always Like Never Before campaign, which we introduced last year. The creative honours the greats of the game, including, of course, our British 2-time champion Andy Murray, as well as also spotlighting the sport's emerging stars. With a ground's capacity of just 42,000 people at any one time, there are very many Wimbledon fans around the UK and across the world who will be watching the championships from afar. We want to find ways for them to share in the excitement, no matter where they are. Our website and apps will be enhanced with additional functionality, content forms and new player profiles this year. Further afield, the Hill in New York will be back, bigger and better for its third year, and moving to a new location next to Brooklyn Bridge. The event will launch on the second Friday evening with a free performance by Olivier Award winner Nicole Scherzinger, followed by live tennis across the whole of the finals weekend. A little closer to home, the big screens will return locally in Mitcham and Morden, running from middle Saturday to final Sunday, allowing our local community to enjoy watching the matches, perhaps playing some mini tennis and sharing in the excitement of the championships. Encouraging younger audiences to engage with Wimbledon is incredibly important. Whether it is our Wimbledon Kids characters Blade and Bounce, collaborating with YouTube sensation Blippi, or Wimble World on Roblox, we're focused on having content and channel options that appeal to our youngest Wimbledon fans. Our environmental sustainability work continues this year with our 2030 targets in mind. Some of the work we will be doing won't be very visible to guests this year, such as embarking on a major degassing project across all of our kitchens on the site. But equally, there will be a number of more visible changes, such as the introduction of entirely plastic-free and 100% biodegradable boxes for our famous strawberries and cream, and the expansion of Evian's reuse and refill pilot programme, which was so successfully rolled out amongst the player group last year. To help make the championships even more accessible, we're undertaking an exciting pilot with Action Audio and our official partner American Express. The project will gather insights in partnership with members of the blind and low vision community to find ways to enhance their enjoyment of the on-court action, including creating a series of sound cues to help bring the nuances of a match to life in real time. We're excited about this initiative to make the championships more accessible to more people. I'll hand back to Debbie to continue the updates.
Thank you, Sally. So now, if I may, turning to our plans to transform the Wimbledon Park golf course. As you'll be aware, following the decision by the Mayor of London's office to call in our planning application in January, the Mayor's planning officers have been making their own detailed assessment of our plans. Meetings continue with GLA officers, and we hope that a public hearing to determine the application will be held later this summer. We are confident that the Mayor's team will recognise the significant economic, sporting and community benefits that our proposals will unlock. Since our application was submitted in July 2021, we have spoken to more than 8,000 local people at our various events, and we have held 100 guided tours of the proposed southern parkland. We understand that this is one of the most comprehensive consultation processes held as part of a planning application in many years. Now, it's important to stress that in spite of some local and vocal opposition to the plans, the vast majority of people who have attended one of our tours or engagement events have been hugely positive about our proposals. We have heard time and time again that local families are very much looking forward to gaining access to land that has been a private golf course for well over a century. As a result of our proposals, there will be over 27 acres of newly accessible parkland for everyone to enjoy. And importantly, this equates to a 50% increase in the green space currently available in Wimbledon Park, and is the equivalent to over 400 tennis courts. We've also committed to a programme of substantial improvements in the existing Wimbledon Park, including an upgraded water sports centre, new public toilets and a new children's play park. Now, these are very significant community benefits, and alongside our desire to remain one of the world's leading sporting events by bringing the qualifying competition here on site, the project will allow us to open the event to more people who want to see the world's best players in close proximity and experience the magic of Wimbledon. We're looking forward to a public hearing on our application, and we will continue to work with all the relevant partners to deliver what is one of the greatest sporting transformations since the 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And now back to Sally for some more updates on our work around the estate.
Thanks, Debbie. Around the estate, we continue to be as busy and ambitious as ever. Investing strategically in our facilities is central to our long-term vision for both the club and the championships. Debentures have always been a key part of this process, and we were delighted when our centre court debenture issue for 2026 to 2030 was substantially oversubscribed, raising more than £200 million for capital projects across the grounds. This time last year, we shared a video of our plans for the Millennium Building, which houses 3 important groups: the players, the members, and of course the media. I'm pleased to say that all of the enabling works have now been completed, which will allow for a fast start on the main project works immediately following this year's championships, and keep us on track for completion of the project in 2027. Many of the changes to the building won't be visible to guests at this stage, but as members of the media, you will notice the entrance to the workroom and the stairs to level 3 will look a little bit different this year, as groundwork is completed for a fuller renovation in future years. The final phase of our development at the Community Tennis Centre at Rains Park is now complete, and this facility is an official practice venue for the championships this year, with 16 grass courts, a new clubhouse with changing and therapy rooms, a cafe and a multi-use function room. We have also worked hard to ensure that the project delivers benefits for nature, with significant biodiversity enhancements on the site, including a very large pond, wildlife meadows and more than 180 new trees. With nearly 16,000 adults and children registered, this venue is a thriving year-round community hub in its own right, in addition to hosting our Wimbledon Junior Tennis Initiative and training for the ball boys and ball girls. It's really pleasing to see it established as an important leisure and recreation facility for the local community. On a smaller scale, the No. 1 court shop has been enlarged and refurbished and will contain the complete range of Wimbledon merchandise. Our retail sales this year have far surpassed our expectations, both in the shops on site, up 30%, and online, up 60%. And so we're hoping for another year of strong sales at the championships this year. I'll hand back to Debbie for some final words before we finish.
Great. Thank you, Sally. So, finally, 2024 is a very special year for the Wimbledon Foundation as we celebrate its 10-year anniversary. And during the past decade, the Foundation has distributed some £20 million to charitable activities, both locally, nationally and internationally, with half of these funds invested in our local boroughs of Merton and Wandsworth. The Foundation's work continues to go from strength to strength, and last year we set records both in terms of the amount of grants and donations distributed, but also the number of people positively impacted by our work. Already one of the largest employers in Merton during the championships, we've expanded our Work at Wimbledon initiative, which helps local people facing barriers to employment the access for some job opportunities at the championships. And nationally, thanks to a significant contribution from Barclays, the Wimbledon Foundation's Set for Success programme, which is delivered by Youth Sport Trust, has expanded from 19 to 42 secondary schools across the UK. And this enables more young people to gain confidence and build leadership skills to improve their future opportunities in life. And there'll be plenty of opportunities to celebrate the Foundation's work during this year's championships, including the fact that we're welcoming back those who performed the coin toss before each of the men's and women's singles finals in previous years. Now, I'd like to finally, if I may, touch on the special guests for this year's championships. And this year we're very much looking forward to welcoming back, firstly, Conchita Martinez, who on the 30th anniversary of her becoming the first Spaniard to win the ladies' singles title. Andre Agassi, who won first of his 8 Grand Slam singles titles at the championships in 1992, and Chris Evert, who marks the 50th anniversary of her first ladies singles title, and Ken Rosewall, who at the grand age of 89 is returning to Wimbledon this year. Ken finished runner-up in the Wimbledon singles on 4 occasions between 1954 and 1974, and won the gentlemen's doubles twice. So we're very much looking forward to welcoming them all to Wimbledon. And I'd like to end by just returning to what I said at the start. Demand for this year's championships has never been greater. And those of us who are part of this historic club, it's an honour and a privilege to play a role in staging one of the country's, if not the world's, most cherished sporting events. It is this success that allows us to reward the players for their talent with record prize money and continue to strategically invest in our facilities with an eye to the future. It is this success that means we can provide a major contribution to British tennis, distribute millions of pounds to local charities, and it is this success that continues to showcase London as the sporting capital of the world. Now, thank you for listening, and this brings to an end our formal remarks, and it's over to you for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. We'll take questions in the room and then see if there are any online. Can I have a show of hands for first question, please? Stuart.
I don't need a I just wanted to confirm, what time does play start on centre court this year?
It starts at 1:30 on centre court this year.
So, the last 2 years, Novak Djokovic has called for an earlier start. Last year, Andy Murray also aired his concerns, said it seems like a basic thing to change. And he made the point about the difference between playing outdoors for a couple of sets and indoors for the next couple of sets. He said, when you get that third slot, you've no way of practicing on an indoor grass court. I just wondered, why is the All England club not listening to the sport's most high-profile players?
I think it's fair to say that the inclement weather that we had last year meant that this was a subject for much debate. And as I think I said to many of you as we were concluding the championships last year, we would be looking at this as part of our review of everything, as we always do, beyond the championships. And we've done that, and we're very happy with where we've concluded, which is that play will start at 1:30 on centre and 1 o'clock on number 1 court.
But why exactly are you happy with that? What are the reasons for there being a 1:30 start rather than it being 1 o'clock like before, or even 12:30?
Well, we're still confident we can achieve what we need to do in that period of time. As I said, we've reviewed it, we've thought long and hard and looked at the data around length of matches and the trends that are occurring in that space, and we're very confident and happy with the decision that we've made this year.
And when you speak about the roof as well, the other advantage of the roof is, of course, that we can have continuous play. When we didn't have one, those rain interruptions meant that play often stopped for that day.
Right. I see there's a benefit, like a huge benefit, having play under the roof when it's raining outside, but this seems a bit different. I mean, Andy also made the point last year, this is not necessarily for weather-related reasons, it's because you're wanting a later third slot. Do you not see the concerns for the players that way?
As Sally said, we're very comfortable with the start times that we have. We're very comfortable with the fact that we have one session instead of 2, and we're very comfortable with the fact that we won't have the situation whereby we finish early in the morning because we have an 11 o'clock cut-off, 11 p.m. cut-off, so we're very comfortable with our schedule.
Thank you. We'll go to Hermione then, Neil.
Hi, at the French Open, there was quite an uncomfortable situation, I think, where Alexander Zverev was on court and, I mean, in court on the same day. I'm curious, obviously his case has been resolved regarding allegedly physically abusing his ex-girlfriend, but in other sports, they might have a domestic violence policy where an athlete would be on administrative leave and they wouldn't be competing at the same time like they're in court. There are other allegations against some other players, so I'm curious to know if the All England club, what their viewpoint is on having a domestic violence policy, and if they would be working with the ATP and other organisations to implement one.
So I think first to say we obviously recognise there's been a settlement in the case, and we also recognise that both parties have expressed a desire to consider the matter concluded. In respect of a domestic violence policy in the sport, clearly that's something that the sport would want to do on a unified basis, and given it's a pertinent issue and we think about policies and rules every year, we're reviewing those amongst the Grand Slams and working with the two tours, and so it's obviously a subject that's front of mind, and I'm sure will be part of those discussions and considerations as we review policies and rules looking forward.
Have you had any discussions over the last three years, I guess, since Zverev initially had allegations against him?
I probably wouldn't share details of private conversations, but as you can imagine, as is the case now, it is something that is pertinent and therefore has been discussed.
Neil.
Hi. How are you planning to honour Andy Murray if this is his final Wimbledon?
Well, we've certainly got plans in place, and we're ready and prepared. But ultimately, it's Andy's decision, and we'll very much be led by him, and we can amend our plans accordingly. But we're ready in any eventuality. But it has to be led by Andy.
So, how much notice do you need?
No notice. We're ready. We've got plans. They're very adaptable. We're clear about what we want to do, but it's really important that this is Andy's call, and so we'll be very much led by him and the decisions that he makes.
Russell, did you have a question?
Yeah. Are you offering any support to players from Ukraine in the way you did last year, where I believe you paid for a second room for them or a coach?
Yes, we're providing exactly the same kind of support that we did last year, working with the LTA on doing that. So yes, it's exactly the same as we did last year.
And just following up Stu's question, are you still planning on having that half-an-hour gap between matches on centre court?
Well, the gaps between matches on centre court are flexible, so very much depends on how the matches are running, what's on the schedule. So there isn't a fixed gap. We are using those gaps flexibly.
Veronica? Question for Sally. Could you flesh out the three stages of the queue, particularly the activations, which I'm not too sure I understand the word in that context.
So what we're trying to do is create a more pleasant experience. So once you've come through the queue, so you'll know where the queue lines are in the park. So that's the first phase. The second phase is where we take payment. So if you're at the front of the queue and you've got a show court ticket, we take payments in that second phase. The idea of the third phase is that it's a much bigger space. You can mill around. You don't have to stand in a line. So we've got a number of our official partners who will have activations, and for want of a better word, that's a set of activities. So fun things to do. There'll be a screen there. It will mean that instead of physically standing in a line, you will actually be able to move about a bit more, relax a bit more, enjoy some of the interesting things that will be going on in that space before you enter the grounds.
And can I just follow up on that? Is that you'll be able to buy things there? Is that the idea that the partners will
I'm looking at my colleagues. I think we do have some retail offering, yeah. Food and drink primarily in that space. But there's lots of fun activations from our partners who are working really hard with us to make that space as interesting and enjoyable as possible. I think as we look ahead to protecting the future of the queue, we recognise that we've got to keep evolving that to meet people's needs and what people want to do.
We'll go to Charlie.
Hi, thanks for that. Just following up the question on Andy, there was talk about a statue. Is that something that's still kind of in the works?
Well, as I said earlier, we've got a range of parts to our plans for Andy, and at the right point in time we'll make those relevant announcements, but it's certainly for Andy to make the decision about when any of us trigger those plans.
So that would only be once he stops?
Yeah.
Just following up from Russell's question, the All England Club has donated significant money to Ukrainian crisis response. Obviously there are many conflicts in the world, and there's particularly a spotlight on the war in Gaza right now. I'm curious if the All England Club has any intention of donating money or any gestures towards that war where tens of thousands of people have been killed and over 1 million people have been displaced by Israeli forces.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of our significant charitable partners is the Red Cross, and we provide funds to them through our foundation, and they then distribute those funds internationally throughout the world, which we sure will include Gaza as well as Ukraine. So our approach is that we have a good partnership with them. They're international charity, and they then determine where those funds go.
Would you make any direct donations or not?
No, we work with the Red Cross, as I said, and they make those donations.
Do we have any other questions in the room? Matt? Stuart?
Yeah, Debbie, you mentioned that you were hoping for the Mayor's office to have a public hearing kind of end of the summer. Have you been given a sort of concrete date on that? And also I wonder how confident you are that will be successful, because obviously it's been quite a long process.
It has. I mean, we're hopefully there's going to be in the summer. We don't yet know a specific date, but there's been a huge amount of engagement, and that engagement has been positive, and we are confident that the GLA will recognise the benefits that our plans do bring, as I spoke to about the increased public park for the community, and also importantly maintaining Wimbledon at the pinnacle of world sport by bringing our qualifying on site. So whilst we haven't been given a specific date, there is constant communication between us and the Mayor's office.
Can I just follow up? Has there been any discussion of revising or reducing the plans if needs be in the dialogue with the GLA?
No, we've presented our plans. Part of that dialogue has been the fact that we've increased what is going to be public park by 7 acres. So that has been a slight amendment, and that has not impacted what we want to do for qualifying in any shape or form. So we're willing to listen. We're good listeners, and that's right and appropriate, and understanding what the local community needs and what the Mayor's office requires. But we are not fundamentally amending our plans. No, because we believe in them and passionately believe in the benefits that they'll bring.
Obviously, some of the sort of initiatives we saw in the marketing for children is quite nice, but it remains the fact that Wimbledon is the only Grand Slam not to have a kids' day on site. I just wondered why that's the case, and also, have you ever considered how difficult the 2-ticket per household limit makes it for a family to attend? Even a family of 3, 2 parents sharing the experience with 1 child, or a family of 4. Why is that the case? You don't have one?
Yeah, absolutely understand the question, and you won't be surprised to hear that it's something we're constantly keeping under review. In terms of the ballot limit for 2 tickets, the reason for that, and we do look at it every year, the reason for that is that the demand for tickets is so incredibly high that we believe restricting it to 2 per application is the best way to get the broadest distribution of tickets. What I would say, however, and we're hugely proud of what the queue enables people to do, is that when we see families in the grounds, quite often they have joined the queue and come in that way. So it's still possible for families to come into the grounds, or larger groups of people, via the queue, and of course the cost of doing that is very accessible. So we're trying our best to balance all of those priorities as we think about how we, in the most fair way, distribute our tickets.
Sure, but I say this as a father, like, standing in a queue for hours with 2 young kids is quite challenging for a lot of families. So could you maybe make it easier for families to come as a whole in the future?
Well, I answered the question earlier about the queue. I mean, as we think about the queue experience, we're trying really hard to make that much better, not just for families, but for anybody who wants to join the queue. And we will continue to review the way in which we distribute our tickets. But with the demand we have, which we talked about earlier, we still believe that the issuing of 2 tickets per application is the fairest way to get the broadest possible distribution of tickets.
We have a question online, so we'll go to Paul Newman first and then to our online question.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question about Simona Halep. I mean, she's hardly played of late, so I don't know what her short-term, long-term plans are, but I wonder if she applied for a wild card, do you have a policy about giving a wild card to a player who has served a drug suspension?
Obviously, that's a hypothetical question. Our wildcard committee meet and make those decisions. They haven't yet met. We'll be making an announcement about the wildcard decisions on the 19th of June, so I wouldn't want to prejudge the consideration of the wildcard committee.
But to clarify, you don't have a policy about whether you would or wouldn't grant a wild card to someone who's served a suspension. It would be a question of just judging that application on its own.
Yeah, because once a player has served any drugs ban, they're then free to compete in the circuit, and as such the wildcard committee would consider that and their performance when considering that wildcard. But as Sally said, the wildcard committee will meet and make that determination.
We'll go to our question online.
We'll take an online question from James Gray, iNews.
Hi, Sally and Debbie. I've been in Nottingham over the last couple of days, and there's been quite a lot of consternation about line calling there. There's obviously no Hawkeye. I know that you have the Hawkeye Challenge system, but I'm wondering, given the way the officials especially have been treated over the last few days by players who are sort of so now used to Hawkeye Live and that kind of thing, whether there will be some reminders to players about their behaviour towards officials and, you know, that they are just humans and that there is no Hawkeye Live, because it's been quite eye-opening the last couple of days in Nottingham.
I think that's a fair observation. As we think about player behaviour, I think that's quite clear in our conditions of entry, and we would always look to address any of those issues as they happen. For the championships every year, we have an incredibly high-quality group of match officials working, and so we'd expect them to be respected as everybody who works at the championships, all of whom are there to support the players going about their jobs.
We have another online question from Chris Bowers.
Hi. You mentioned the environmental programme a couple of times at the All England Club. On the first day of last year's championships, there was a story of around 30 environmental grandees having written a letter questioning Wimbledon's association with Barclays, given that Barclays was the leading funder of fossil fuel extraction projects. Earlier this year, Barclays announced that it was not going to fund any new oil or gas extraction. I wonder whether you can comment on whether the All England Club made any representations to Barclays, given the association and the fact that Barclays' name is on the umpires' chairs, that may have led to that decision by Barclays.
I think the first thing I would say is we're absolutely committed to our 2030 environment positive targets. We believe sporting bodies, ourselves included, have a really important role to play. So it's incredibly important for us. I suppose we wouldn't provide a running commentary on the business dealings of Barclays or any of our partners. Suffice to say, they're an outstanding partner, work closely with us on helping us drive the success that Debbie has talked about, and that success enables us to invest in various areas. And Barclays particularly, Debbie referred to the Set for Success scheme. Barclays have been a fantastic partner in helping us to share the benefit of the championships with many people.
We'll take another online question from Howard Fenrick from AP.
Hello. Wanted to ask, now that it appears none of Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, or Rafael Nadal will be there this year, what sort of effect do you think those absences might have on the tournament from a tennis standpoint, a fan standpoint, TV standpoint, etc.? Thank you.
No, I think it's, when you think of tennis as a sport, there is always turnover with the players. I mean, that same question may have been asked about Sampras and Agassi and in the past, and then you had, of course, had the great four players with Andy Murray as well, and Djokovic, Nadal and Federer. When you look back at just what's happened at the French Open with the amazing semi-final with Alcaraz and Sinner playing, and then the final where Alcaraz won against Zverev, the quality of tennis and the depth of tennis, both on the men's and the women's side, is huge. So we have our former champions returning this year, and I am confident that the excitement level that I certainly feel going into my first championships is felt by millions of people. So I'm not nervous at all about that and about the new generation coming through and the wonderful players that they are.
Hermione, and then we'll go back online.
Yeah, will Wimbledon this year be an election-free zone? Will you ban any sort of political badges or anything?
Yes, it depends what you mean by an election-free zone. Obviously, the election is taking place during the championships. We've had a look through all of our operations, and we don't believe there'll be any operational impact of the election taking place that day. There's still a chance for people to register for a postal vote. In terms of those of us that might be working very long days at the championships. But no, that we are not, there's no political campaigning on site.
So will you be allowed to wear sort of Labour Party, Conservative Party badges coming into sight?
Yes. So our ground entry conditions are all focused around disturbing other people's enjoyment of the tennis. So we don't object to you wearing such things, but if you're creating a disturbance, that's when we would address it.
Just check from last year, you banned spectators bringing in Russian and Belarusian flags. Is that still the case?
It's in place, yes.
Has any addition to that been made, any change to that policy? Other countries, in particular the Gaza conflict, has any changes to that policy?
No, we haven't made any changes to that policy. There's obviously a restriction on the size of the flags you can bring in too.
Thank you, Neil. Tamai.
Over the years, players, support staff and entourages have grown quite exponentially. I'm curious just how has the All England club managed that over the years, and also, I mean, there's obviously been some obvious changes, but what changes has the club made to accommodate the higher numbers of people on the grounds?
It's a great question, Hermione, and actually one of the drivers for us taking forward the Millennium Building project and developing that space further and actually adding a significant amount more space to that building is a lot to do with the growing entourage of players and making sure that we can provide the right type and quality of facilities for players, but also for their teams too. And as those teams have grown, that definitely presents a challenge for facilities. But in the design and the programme that we have for the Millennium Building, I'm confident we can stay ahead of others in terms of the quality and quantum of what we provide for that group.
Yeah. And in addition, of course, we opened Rains Park this year that's available for players and their entourage to practice, and they go there, there's food, there's ice baths, there's changing rooms, so they can relax there as well. So we're constantly reviewing it, but as Sally said, we're confident that our evolution will be, certainly the players will appreciate it.
I think we have time for 2 more questions. They're both online. We'll head over there.
Our first online question comes from Andy Robinson, The Sun.
Hello. Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton, is obviously the patron of the All England Club. Are you still expecting her to attend this summer's championships given her ongoing cancer treatment, or is there plans for someone else to hand out the trophies this year?
I mean, our priority is clearly that our patron has the time to recover, and we're certainly not going to add any additional pressure on her recovery by speculating on her attendance at this year's championships. And when it comes to the presentation ceremony, as in previous years, we will announce those that are going to be a part of that ceremony on the morning of the finals. So nothing's changed in that regard.
Our final online question comes from Nick Powell, Sky.
Hi, Sally. Hi, Debbie. Just wanted to check the activation zone. What's the purpose? Because you presumably I know you're going to say to have more fun, but once you've got your ticket, aren't you just going to want to go in and watch the tennis?
So there is a period, I don't know when you last visited the queue, but there is a period in the morning where we are rolling up, as we call it, the queue that's the overnight queue primarily. And so people are coming out of that, and we are, at that point, selling them a ticket. They're keen to get that ticket in their hands. There is a period between that point and when the grounds open where we're not letting anybody into the grounds. And so we're keen to make sure that during that period of time and until we can get them into the grounds, they have an opportunity to do more than just stand in a line. That's what it's really all about. And then, of course, as the queue grows through the day and we're able to let people in depending on how many people leave, there is a period where people are in the queue without great certainty about when they'll get into the grounds, and it just gives them more space to relax, hopefully, and enjoy that period of time rather than just be standing in a line.
It's on mute.
I'm afraid we can't hear you.
Nick, if you'd just like to unmute.
Sorry, yeah. Just to clarify on Andy Murray and the tributes that you've got planned, should they be required, have you discussed these with him? Has he been part of the planning of it, or is it all going to be a surprise to him?
We certainly be talking to members of Andy's team, but probably wouldn't share any more detail of the plans because they are flexible, and I would just repeat what I said earlier. We'll be very much guided by Andy, and he needs to make the decision for himself, and we can then respond accordingly.
And I assume you're expecting not a dry eye in the house if it happens.
I think we will all share some of the same emotions as and when Andy decides to retire.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. So that brings us to the end of the media conference today. Thank you very much for your attention. We look forward to welcoming you back to the championships when we get underway in a couple of weeks. Thank you.